Amrita? Amrita?
Sir.
Yeah, you can start.
A very good evening to each and everyone gathered. IEEE Malabar Subsection and IEEE Malabar Hub jointly present before you the 78th session of the webinar series. Topic for the day is College to Corporate, How to Navigate Smoothly. With great honor, I welcome Mr. Sekharan Menon, Chief Executive Officer, EdgeVarsity, Bengaluru. Sekharan sir is a seasoned business leader with over 3 decades of experience in corporate and global business management. He is responsible for leading the strategic direction of EdgeVarsity and driving its execution by fostering a perfect mix of organization culture, leadership style, and talent development. During his 19-year stint in Subex Limited, a software product company with global operations, Sekharan sir was a member of company's executive leadership team and was actively involved in various mergers and acquisitions. It was during his time at Subex he found the excitement he has for building and scaling up organizations. He is also actively involved in the startup ecosystem in India.
Sorry, did I mess up with your introduction?
It's unmute. Mute yourself. Amrita?
Hello?
Yeah. Now it's
Sir.
okay. Continue.
Okay, sir. Sekharan sir is coming from an engineering background and having worked in IT for the last 20 years, bridging the gap between the engineering education and industry needs is something he is extremely passionate about, and it is this zeal that drives EdgeVarsity to the forward march. Once again, a warm welcome to you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amrita. Thank you, Sabik, and thank you all other people who joined us today. It is interesting. In fact, I was talking to Sean, I think he was also part of your IEEE Malabar chapter, who introduced me to this particular group, and I was also talking to other people who are helping you. It's a great opportunity to interact with all of you. And let me just set the context and say that what I'm going to do in next 35-40 minutes is more of sharing my experience and what I think should be looked at as points as when you navigate or when you move from university to industry, what are things that you should do. So with that, let me just start sharing the slide. If one of you can just confirm that you're able to see that, that'll be great. Give me a second, please.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Visible, okay.
Yes.
So what it is, right? I mean, if not this year, next year, or the 2 years later, all of you who are students, you will go through this transition, right? So this is going to be a transition from your student life to corporate life. Or we call it as a college to corporate transition. So this is a critical journey for all of us. So I think what we should focus on in the next 30-40 minutes is how do you navigate smoothly in this particular transition. And my preference would be, I will speak for some time, but then it should be more of interactive, where you could ask me questions, you could suggest something, and feel also free to disagree with me and put your point so that it becomes a discussion. Because it is not enough for you to just listen to me for 30-40 minutes and go back home, because that will not be a very productive way of spending time. So I will share my experience and my thought, but then I want all of you to ask questions and come back. And I was just asking Sabik whether all of that attendees are from Kerala. I have asked that question for one particular reason. In case anybody wants to ask me questions in Malayalam, I can handle that because I'm a Malayali. So I can understand Malayalam, I can speak Malayalam fluently, I can respond to you in Malayalam. So it doesn't matter, the language doesn't matter. Let us try and make it as interactive as possible. All right. So with that, let me also tell you, I think Amrita introduced me in the normal way about my experience and what did I do in my life. One of the reasons, or one of the things which gives me that qualification to talk to all of you today is, my having experienced both sides of the table. When I say both sides of the table, back in '87, I was like you. I just came out of my education, looking for a job, and I spent about 4 months, from the time I really started looking for a job. Before that, about 3-4 months. So totally, I spent about 7 months before I found my first job. So I have gone through, the difficulties of this transition, the university to or the college to corporate transition. I did go through that. So I am one who experienced that. So I understand the pain, and I also know, I also know what it means to all of us. And on the other side, I have also interviewed people like, young engineers at the entry-level engineers. I have also interviewed people. So we have, seen what kind of problem they were going through. And I can also share some of the experience of that. So that's the whole idea. That's my qualification to talk to all of you today. So, like I said, it is more of sharing my thoughts and my experience, and I want you to openly talk about it, ask questions, and see what can be done, what needs to be done. All right. So this is let me start with one of my before this, I'm just putting up an image here. I don't know whether all of you are wondering why this image is relevant. Okay. So if any of you want, I just give a few seconds. If any of you want to react to this image as to why you think I put this image on the chat box. Any reaction? So I'll not waste a lot of time. I don't know how. Okay, there is one chat. Let me see what it is. Your first phone? Okay, no, it is not my first phone. In fact, it was the first phone for many people. I don't know whether you know this because of your age. In the initial days of mobile phone, if you see 10 people with a mobile phone, you will probably see 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 carrying a Nokia phone. Nokia was so popular. So everybody, or most of the people, I think 90% of the people, carry a Nokia phone. Only 10% or 15% of people carried a non-Nokia phone. Okay. This was the case before smartphone. And today, how many of you see a Nokia smartphone? In anybody's hand, whether your relatives, your friends, your parents, your brothers, siblings, very few. And in fact, this particular information will tell you why did I put that up. This is something that I just picked up 2 days ago as to which is the most selling mobile brand in the world. It is Xiaomi. Xiaomi beats Samsung. Okay, this happened in June. So till the time it was Samsung. So what happened here? Why am I putting this here? I want all of you to understand there is a great learning from this particular thing. What is that learning? I don't know how many of you know this. Nokia is a large company. Nokia has been a large company. Nokia continues to be a large company. There's a Finnish company based out of Finland. Nokia is a huge company in the telecom. They are big. But what Nokia missed out is Nokia missed out to change with time. So when everybody was thinking about a smartphone and the application of a smartphone or a feature phone, whatever, Nokia continued living with whatever they were living with. And slowly they lost the market share. So they were late. I don't think Nokia, completely, it was not a situation of Nokia not doing anything about it, but Nokia was very late in coming up with smartphones and things like that. That is why today you rarely see a Nokia phone. In fact, I don't think any of the people that know to me, my friends or my colleagues who carry a Nokia smartphone. So I want to start this whole session with this particular lesson, that it is extremely critical whether you are running a business or for your own thing, whether you're a student or you're working somewhere. The most important thing is changing with time. If you don't do that, all of us, it is not just for you, it is for me, it is for all of us in this meeting, or even our relatives, our parents, our brothers, or whoever. For everybody, if you do not change with time, we will become obsolete, we will become outdated, and we will be left behind the race. And especially people who are looking at transitioning from college to corporate, I personally think this is a great learning. I don't know how many of you thought about this. I'm assuming that many of you would not have thought about this. That's the reason I thought I would pick up this to start it. The same thing happened. The same thing happened with Kodak film. I don't know how many of you know Kodak film as a brand. Kodak was the number one. Oh no, when you think of camera film, it was only Kodak. From that stage, today Kodak is not even in business. Again, same thing happened. Kodak did not change with time. So the first and foremost point is about changing with time. Now, I just want to share this. I told you that my fundamental qualification to come and address you all today or talk to you all today is my experience of being on both sides of the table, right? On one side, I have gone through the same thing for about 7 months. On the other side, I'm talking about what I have experienced when I was trying to interview people. When I say I was as a team. This is an experience I had in 2014. So just to give you my background, I've been working in corporates till 2015. I think Amrita introduced me where she said I'm also from an engineering background. So I worked, initial 9 years in the technical, engineering job. After that, I got into sales and I got into business management and all of that. I was lucky enough to get an opportunity to work for about 1.5 years handling HR in the company that I worked for. So during that time in 2014 and 15, during that time, this is a software product company based out of Bengaluru. We wanted to do an off-campus recruitment drive. Normally, we have been doing on-campus, the campus recruitment. This time, I wanted to try out off-campus. So we got about 1,000 applicants coming in for they applied for the program through the Google group and all of that. We were expecting only about 300, 400, but we got 1,000 and we didn't want to reject anybody, without even talking to them. So we processed all the 1,000 applications. You will be shocked to see this, and I don't mean to scare you. My objective of sharing this information with you is to make you understand what the reality of life is. Because it is important for us to understand the reality of life so that we can prepare ourselves to face that reality, because that's very, very important. As the saying goes, identifying or recognizing or understanding the problem is 50% of the solution. Once you recognize or realize or understand the problem, you will somehow start working towards the solution, because that's an important step. So in this particular situation, out of 1,000, after the second round, 950 got rejected. And at the third round, after the 3 rounds of interview, the stage 3, we just got 5 candidates, just 5 candidates got selected out of 1,000. And believe me, these 1,000 candidates had a very good, consistent academic records. They all had, I think, if I remember right, 8+ CGPA. Okay, they all came from computer science, electronics and communication, information technology background, because that is a prerequisite that we put because we were a software product company. So they were doing academically well, consistently well. They also had a good educational background. ECE, computer science. I'm not saying any branch is bad, but these are branches which are in high demand. I think some of you could be from these branches also. So even with all of that, these people could not make the interview. So this particular incident made me and my colleagues go deeper to understand why this happened. Because it was very easy, or it is very easy for anybody to say that, okay, these 995 students were not good. But I felt, all of us, not just me, all my colleagues, we all felt it is going to be unfair for us to say that. Because they were good, or they are good in their own ways. When you say academically good, they have done well because they have some quality. So what missing is, we wanted to understand what is missing, why did this happen? So we started digging a little deeper, right? Now then we started looking at the employability report, or the skill report, as they call it as, which is published by various organizations with the support of All India Council of Technical Education. Just to make sure that we are all on a common page, All India Council of Technical Education is the governing body all over India. I mean, governing body which governs all engineering colleges all over India. Right? I mean, all your syllabuses are AICTE mandated or prescribed syllabus. So this is a yearly survey they conduct, which talks as a, they call it as a employability or a skill report. Now look at this data, right? It is very scary. This is the reason I told you that I'm not looking to scare you. I'm not planning to scare you, but then I'm sharing some of the realities of life. Look at the graph on the right side. It says the employability of B.Tech student. It was 54% in 2015. It came to 52, 53, 50, 51, went up to 57. In 2021, it is 46.82%. Even if you round it up, it's 46. I don't know how many of you know this. India produces about 11 to 12 lakhs engineering students every year. In millions, we call it 1.1 or 1.2 million. So if you say only 47% or 50% of these fall into the employable bracket, what does that mean? It means about 6 lakhs engineering students are going through difficult time. So going back to the topic of the discussion, how do you navigate smoothly when you transition from college to corporate? So these 60% or 6 lakhs people or 57% of people are finding it extremely difficult in the navigation. Right? This is why this particular topic becomes extremely. So all this while, my focus is more about helping you understand why this is critical. Why each of you, I can see that we have 30 odd people or 37 odd people, listening to me today. It is extremely critical for each one of you and your friends and your relatives to understand the gravity of the problem. Because I go back to my earlier statement, recognizing or identifying the problem is half the solution. All right. So this is why, trying to make all effort to make your transition from college to corporate. I just want you to listen to this. I just want one of you to confirm that you're able to see the also.
Now look at the picture on your screens. This is what happens to most engineering graduates when they move from the university to industry. Most of them don't make it to their desired destinations, and for the lucky few that do, the experience can be very traumatic. Why does this happen? This is because they lack the knowledge and skill sets required for the industry.
So this is coming again. This is not just from me. This is Wing Commander Ravi Menon. It's a retired Wing Commander. He works as a business unit head in one of the software company which creates software products and solutions for aviation industry. So he has been a navigator in the Indian Air Force. He has been a trainer. He continues to be a trainer. So he's basically sharing his experience as to what he thinks people are lacking. So one of the problems or one of the reasons for this is that, so we just try to, capture all of this here. So everybody, every one of you, even the 1.1 million that I'm talking about, barring few, lucky few, everybody is going through this difficult journey. So the transition is not very easy. It's a very shaky walk. Many people lose it on the way. As Wing Commander Raymond said, some people make it, but then even when they make it, it is a very traumatic experience. Why does it happen? Because all of you are doing engineering. Engineering graduation program or a post-graduation program, please understand, it is a fundamental foundation. It is almost like building a foundation for your house when you construct a house. Without foundation, you can't do anything. So it is critical that you build a strong foundation. So whichever engineering college that you are part of, the engineering college that you are part of focuses more on, making sure that you all students have a strong foundation of whichever branch of engineering that you are doing. So for an electronics engineer, the engineering college does everything possible to make sure that he or she is a strong electronics engineer. But when you transition from industry, university to industry, you need to top up this fundamental knowledge with industry relevant knowledge. It is almost like I told you about the foundation part. It is almost like, I'm sure all of you have experienced either within your family or outside, of people building house or buying a house or buying an apartment, right? Building a house or buying an apartment is a very, very important milestone in our life, isn't it? Especially for the middle class people. It's a dream coming true, right? We put all our hard-earned money to buy it. But can you walk into just house and stay there? You can, without furniture. But for your stay to be pleasant, you need to furnish it. Correct? Now, your engineering knowledge is exactly like that. Your engineering degree is exactly like that. It is almost like buying a house. That's a critical milestone. You have to do that. But for you to be successful, for you to be doing what you need to be doing, you should be, updating that. It is equivalent of furnishing a house or doing interior for your house. You should top it up with industry relevant knowledge. Now, some of you, I don't want to generalize, but then I think this is a good majority of them. On one side, they will do everything possible to do that industry relevant knowledge, technical knowledge, and all of that. But they might have difficulty in presentation. They might have difficulty in communication. This is another problem. I have seen, since I worked in an IT company, I have worked with software engineers, good software engineers. They're very good as software engineers. But then they struggle when it comes to communication. In an IT industry, it is kind of manageable because some of your tests are normally, we will ask a candidate to write a program. If he or she writes a good program, we may be okay with the communication of presentation. But then tomorrow, if you're an electronics engineer, you go to a design company or you go to some other company, you're an electrical engineer, go for another tip. You need to communicate well. You need to present yourself well. When I say presenting yourself well, it is not only about how do you communicate in the interview process, it is also about how do you carry yourself, right? We talk about, dressing properly and then, walking confidently and all of that. Incidentally, and unfortunately, in India, our education system does not talk about this kind of thing. The education system does not focus on this. So one of my other suggestions to IEEE chapter would be, can you as an organization also start socializing these kind of thoughts and ideas with your members so that they are aware of it? Because many people don't even know. When I go to colleges, I see people giving importance to the way they carry themselves, which is okay in a college. But you can't do the same thing when you walk in for an interview. And if you have communication challenges, if you have language challenges, you need to work on it. Practice can take you there. So this is another problem, right? And then how well you create your resume. Please understand, if there is an opportunity for 10 positions, there is a possibility that they will get 100 or 150 or even 500 resumes. So in the first resume screening, they look at the first impression, right? So it is important for you to make sure that your resume is crisp, attractive. When I say attractive, it does not mean you put a lot of designs and all of that. Make sure that it is impressive, it is crisp, and it gives you all information about yourself. If I am an interviewer, when I'm the screening person, when I look at your resume, it should make me read through that. So this is another thing. If your college is not taking care of it, I think you should look at talking to some of your seniors, some of your relatives, some of your friends or your friends' parents who could help you with this kind of activity. So just to sum up, the major problem why this transition is very shaky is all of us go for a job interview with our engineering foundation knowledge, which is not good enough. You need to top it up with industry knowledge. So what you need to do is understand what you want to do, which industry you want to get into, and try and understand what skill sets are required for that particular industry and make sure that you have. See, one other difference, I want to share with you one of the difference between what it was maybe 30 years ago and what it is today. 30 years ago, you did not have 1.1 million engineering students coming. It is far, far lower. And because of the lower number, or because the higher number now, the competition is very tough. Now you are going through stiff competition. Number two, many of the companies are not willing to spend their resource and time to train people because many of the youngsters do not spend more than 2 or 3 years in a company. They keep changing. So companies, even my company, we think, okay, why should I spend our time training people? I'll look at somebody who's who has the knowledge. We hire them and then put them on the job so that we don't have to spend our time and money training. Because of this, when you position yourself for an interview, you need to make sure that you are absolutely ready for that particular job. You should position yourself as a person who understands. I'm not expecting you to be an expert in that industry. You can't be. You will gain that expertise only when you start work. But then you should know what that knowledge is. Let me give you a small example as to what I'm referring to. I know all of you are most of you are probably from the electronics and electrical branch. I'll give you an example. You learned a lot of theories in your college. You learn about thyristor, you learn about semiconductor, you do all of that. Now, what is the use of learning that? The use of learning that is to understand how these things are actually deployed in a real life situation. As an example, how a particular type of chip or a transistor or what do you call it there, semiconductor, works in a real life application. And what happens when you make something? Because that is the concept. That is the application part. So this is what we should be focusing on. So you need to basically, I repeat, use your learning. See how this learning is applied in a real life situation. If you do not do that, there is a possibility that you might, get grouped in that 57 or 43% or 53% of people who fall into the not so employable. This is what you need to achieve. You need to make sure that your transition from university to industry is a smooth one. And how do you do that? These are things. Understand which industry you want to look at. If you haven't thought about, please start thinking about it. There is a possibility that you'll have a plan A and a plan B, right? And then understand what skill set are required. If you want to become a software engineer, okay. If you want to become a full stack developer, you need to know that I need to understand full stack development. If you want to become a data science, you need to understand the basics of data science. If you want to become a cybersecurity analyst, you will have to understand that. If you want to become a chip designer, you need to understand something. So think about that and understand the skill sets required and start gaining things. Do not forget to focus on your soft skills. And here, soft skill is a large umbrella, but here I'm specifically talking about communication and presentation. Communication is the way you communicate with people. Presentation, let's say if you are asked to do a small presentation, how do you present? Not only how do you communicate the presentation, how do you present yourself? Your posture, your confidence, your body language and all. You have to be confident. If I'm talking to you, if I'm sitting with you for an interview, my judgment of you, my assessment of you is not going to be only based on what you all know. It is also going to be based on your body language, the way you present yourself, and how confident are you. Because there are so many unknowns once you start working. Unlike your education, education, many of the things, I would say 80-90% of the things are known. There's only like 10% of unknown. Once you start working, probably the composition changes. You probably have only 50% knowns and 50% unknown. So your confidence and your ability to crack newer problems is what is going to help you in your life. So that is why the confidence is very, very important. All right. So this is something, I just told you about this house thing. So I just want to put it in a simple perspective. This is how your engineering and skilling work. So this is my last slide before I ask you if you have questions. I took about 30 plus minutes for this. So the secret to success, one word, stay relevant or being relevant. What are some of the shorter points? I think we discussed this multiple times, but I'm reiterating. You have to top up your basic foundation with industry relevant knowledge. Focus on your concepts. This is another important thing that earlier I was in a college addressing some of the students. In Palakkad. Some of us, I don't want to say all of us, some of us, we just learn the theory as is. Please try to understand the concepts. Once you know the concepts, once your concepts are strong, you would be able to relate it much better. It's not only about the marks that you get in your examination, it is also about how strong are you on the concepts. Because that is why I just give you another example. I just gave you the electronics example. I just give you a smaller example, which is a mechanical example. It's very easy to understand. Mechanical engineers learn, multiple subjects called strength of material, material science, and all of that. In this, they learn, physical property, thermal property, chemical properties. Where do they use it? I have spoken to many mechanical engineers. Can I weld a stainless steel plate and a carbon steel plate together? If yes, how do you do that? If not, why can't you do that? In fact, the answer contains all of these chemical, physical, thermal properties of material. But unless and until you are able to apply this in this particular question, your knowledge becomes insufficient or incomplete. Get it? Focus on your language, communication, and presentation. Especially, I can tell you for myself, again, I told you that I am speaking here. One of my qualifications I have experiences. For the first interview that I have attended, I was shivering. I was shivering before the interview because I was not confident at all. Because this is the first time I'm going to face an interview to be spoken in English. I'm also somebody like you, studied in Kerala, all of that. The interview happened in Coimbatore. So once I learned that, once I faced that particular problem, I realized that this is something I need to focus on, this is something I need to work on. So I'm sharing that experience with all of you and saying that please, if you haven't started doing it yet, please start it today. Please understand that you need to not only focus on your engineering knowledge, you also need to focus on your softer skills, language, communication, presentation, etc. And we talked about the confidence part, and believe me, the communication, the presentation, the confidence part, you can get all of these through practice. One of my suggestions, there are many ways of doing it. One of my suggestions would be to enhance your communication skill. Please read and listen to some of this English, TV channels or news channels or whatever. That'll help you to get the vocabulary built up. Another important thing which I've done, which worked well for me, practice by standing in front of a mirror. Because there you could see, you will be able to see how your body language is, how are you reacting, how are you responding to certain situations, what are your gestures, are you closing? Because there are some people when they speak, they sit like this, which in some cases are not considered as a positive thing. They say it shows the person is not very confident. So you need to understand some of these and you need to practice looking at a mirror, because when you look at a mirror, you're talking to yourself, you see how you react, what's your body language, how confident are you, right? Practice can definitely help you with this kind of thing. I'm sure you would have seen some of these reality shows where young kids who come and do wonderful things, right? And this is something I would call all of you as lucky that at least some of us did not have when we were. There are so many people from the industry that you want to be part of around you. And today the social media like LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever forum that you talk about helps you to connect with people from the industry. So interact with them. It's a general conversation. It could be generally, asking them some questions. In fact, the organization that I am part of, one of the approach that we have taken is we have used veterans from the industry to create the program. And in fact, for every session, they keep saying that, look, we are available if you want to talk to us. So interact with people from the industry. Believe me, it is going to be a great, great learning. I know being members of IEEE, You may be already doing some of this because IEEE takes that initiative. But it is also important that you share that with your friends and your other colleagues. I mean, not colleagues, relatives, batchmates, classmates, all. Because learning through interaction with industry experts is going to be fantastic. Some colleges do that. They get people from the industry to come and do some sessions, talk to them and all of that. But you don't have to wait for the colleges to do that. Just go around, connect with people through LinkedIn, exchange ideas. And believe me, there are many people who are from the industry who are passionate about helping these younger generation because they understand this problem. They understand the problem of the industry going through. On one side, we talked about people like you, students, your employability being impacted. On the other side, industry is also impacted because industries do not get people, and they'll have to spend a lot of their time in recruitment, training, and all. So just to sum up, these are the 5 things that I want to talk to you about. Oh, sorry. The 6th thing. This is, I would say, probably the topmost one. I'm not saying that other 5 are not important. Stay curious. Do not lose your curiosity. Whenever you see something, whenever you hear something, whenever you talk about, start thinking as to why does that happen? Why does it not happen? I think curiosity is important for everybody, but I think it is even more important for engineers. Because it is that thought process which will make you better engineer. You try to think of why is it not so? What is that? If I do this way, I have heard some youngsters and not even engineers, right? 10th standard, 12th standard students asking, why can't we make this engine cabinet with aluminum? Won't it give you higher fuel efficiency? It may be a stupid question, but let's start thinking about it. And somebody will tell you, okay, you can't do that for this reason. That becomes a learning. So this curiosity becomes an extremely, extremely important. So just to sum up, friends, stay relevant. It is extremely, extremely critical for you to do. So to be successful in life, believe me, when you come out of your college, when you transition from college to corporate, your 2nd stage of life begins. Learning doesn't stop. Learning goes on and on. Competition continues until you retire. So for you to stay ahead of the competition, you have to be on your toes. You have to stay relevant. And you can't miss out like what I just talked about, Nokia phone. You have to change with time. And just focus on all of this and do not lose out on your curiosity. That's all I have to say. I just stop here. And like I said, I spent, I think, 40 minutes, 35 minutes talking. I'm reasonably on time. Now I stop here and then ask you if you have questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. We are open for the Q&A. Participants may unmute your mic or use the chat box for the clarification of doubts or queries.
As I said earlier, feel free to ask me questions either in English or in Malayalam. I can answer you in either language.
Good evening, sir. Yeah, this is Madhupriya. So, as you said that training is not very much important to the freshers freshers. So, as they were not constantly staying in the corporate office, they were changing from 1 year and 1.5 year. So, if we change only then only we can able to know the upgradation skills from some other companies, and they can know, like one of my friend is like that only. like he's into one year he's into some office, and next year he was into some other office. He was like growing and growing. Is it relevant to like if you get I'm not understanding the point of this training thing.
Can I ask you one question before I answer this? You talked
Yeah.
about friend. How long has he or she been working on?
2 years. Sir.
It is too early for you to say that he or she has been ready. I'll tell you why. And I have gone through this again, both sides. See, one thing you all need to realize is even if you join a company after getting trained for 6 months. Let me give you an example of Wipro or Infosys. This is a software company, but then what do? They normally hire people from campus or off campus, put them through 7 months of training. Okay. This training gets you only about 50% of what you should be from a working part of it. And when you start working, believe me, I have seen this. When you start working, let's for a minute assume that you are put on a project from the 7th month. From 7th month to 12th month, you will only get to about 80% of what is required. See, it takes about 4 to 5 years for you to really learn what life is or what a particular domain is. And I'll tell you, this is my experience. The company that I work, I face exactly the same problem. We hire engineers from college. All of them had a 2 years of bond. So for some, they will continue till 2 years because they don't want to break the bond. 2 to 4 years is when people go through this, and probably your friend also went through the same thing, thinking that, okay, I've learned everything, let me go and learn something. That becomes an incomplete learning. Now, let me also give you some examples. Okay. The example that I don't want to take my example because I only worked in 3 companies in my 29 years of life, but don't take my example. I don't know, have you heard this name? You know who the Tata Sons chairman today?
No, not actually. I didn't remember.
Okay, I'm just trying to remember his name, but anyway, the name was the thing. Tata Sons chairman, or even the old TCS CEO Ram Dure and this gentleman. I'm just trying to get his name. Anyway, name doesn't matter much. So this is this person started with TCS. Both these people started with TCS as a program, and this gentleman, I don't know why am I forgetting the name. And Ram Dure also became the CEO of TCS, and this person was the CEO of TCS, and it became Tata Sons chairman. There are many such people like this. So the thought process that you will learn only when you change every 2 years or 3 years, you don't learn it. It is just that people are getting probably a slightly different salary hike, so they jump for that. I have personally suggested the same to many of my close relatives who did exactly the same thing. I'll give you one example I can just remember. A cousin of my wife, he joined Wipro. As Wipro had a program called WAIS. They hired people from science background and mathematics background, not engineer. They put them through a 5 years program. They sponsor a MS program in BITS Pilani, and they were to sign a 5 years bond. Now, the day he completed 5 years, and I accidentally met him about the same week. He met me. It was a general conversation. He told me that I'm planning to leave. I asked him why. He said, I got an offer from IBM. Now, I'll not take you through the entire discussion. I spoke to him for 15 minutes. I realized that his decision of moving from Wipro to IBM was the wrong decision. So I somehow managed to tell him as to why he shouldn't do that. He continued there even today. And this discussion happened, 7 years ago. He continues to work in Wipro. So these are cases. So you don't basically learn things by just switching jobs. And I can say this to you. I mean, you can talk to your friend 3 years later and understand what he has learned or she has learned. You'll realize that. So now I told you about training. I think your question started from the organizations not training. Organization, think of it from the organization's point of view. If I am training people for 6 months and these people are going to work with us only for 15 months more, why should I do that? I go to somebody else and I take that 15 months experience people. So that I don't have to run a training organization. This is what happened. This is why people stop training. Now, what is good or what is bad is something that for you and me to decide. But corporates and organizations realize that this is what is happening. This is how people are thinking. Probably people are thinking the way your friend thought, changing job every 2 years is the best way to learn. Which is not, I can tell you, with my 30 years of corporate experience.
Yeah, true, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, I was thinking that with changing jobs only we can able to get knowledge and all. But according to your answer, I get to know about the things what will happen.
Yeah, it is a very, very wrong, understanding. Just to say.
Thank you, sir.
A feedback form has been shared in the chat box. Participants kindly make sure to fill the form. Is there any further queries?
See, one other suggestion that I have for all of you, like I said, I was in one of the colleges earlier. I just came back and then I started the session. I see a huge reluctance from students in asking questions. And I'm assuming, I probably also had the same problem when I was a student. I'm assuming it is a fear of being incorrect or fear of being wrong. Don't do that. I'll tell you what, you might face, assuming that, most of your students, you might, when you go for an interview process, you might face a situation where you will be put through a group discussion exercise. You will only be successful in a group discussion when you speak. Of course, you have to speak relevant things, but they also watch you how much of lead are you taking in the whole discussion. Are you able to take the discussion in a particular way? So asking questions, you don't ask questions only in one situation where either you have understood everything or you do not understand anything. Okay, but those situations are very rare. So if any of you, I'm only suggesting this, if any of you have that fear of being incorrect, and if that is what is stopping you from asking questions, please get out of it. There is absolutely no wrong questions or stupid questions or whatever questions. Because you could ask a question for clarity, which is perfectly fine. You did not understand, somebody else would have understood, that's fine. Okay, so this is a piece of suggestion I just want to give you. I did not capture this in my presentation because this is something I see. In fact, after this college session, I kept asking the students, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Nobody came. And the HOD, as we were walking out of the auditorium, HOD says, sir, this is what we face in the class also. We keep asking questions as to, did you understand everything? Do you have any doubt? People don't ask. And when they go for examination, they find it difficult. So my sincere suggestion, request, don't feel shy, get out of that shell, and ask questions. And I also want you to know that, when I'm talking to you today, it is also a learning experience for me, right? There could be a certain point which could be coming from this side. So you not asking questions, you are slightly being unfair to me, that you're not helping me to learn anything. You're only looking at a one-way communication.
I hope participants have filled the form. Once again, let me extend my gratitude to Sekharan sir and all the participants for finding a moment from your day to attend the event and make it a success. Thank you so much. Thank you one and all.
Amrita, I would also appreciate if you can just share the overall feedback, not individual feedback, because I'm also keen to know whether this session was useful for people who attended this. And
sir, I will interrupt that. That I will share it later.
Yeah.
Because it has been collected through Google form, and then we have to check it out, and then I will share with what is the general feedback about this session.
No problem, Zavik. That's all I wanted. I just want a summary view so that I know whether this is a productive time spent. So
sure.
Okay.
So, thank you on behalf of IEEE Malabar Subsection for coming
thank you
online
all.
And giving us
all the
wonderful
students
session.
And all the working professionals. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.